Chairman of the session, Dr. Gyan Prakash, Dr. K.C. Virana, Dr. Ilambarti, Dr. Pankaj Kumar Shukla, Dr. R.N. Chatterjee, Dr. Ravinder Reddy, Dr. Barbudhe, Dr. Simi Tomar, Dr. Jitendra Verma, Dr. Shirish Nigam, Dr. A.S. Ranade, Dr. Rajkumar, Dr. V.K. Saxena, all the awardees, members of the faculty, distinguished scientists and students, and not the least, Dr. Uday Singh Bias. I was noticing when people were addressing each other, everyone was prefixed with the title doctor, and when it came to Uday Singh, they said Shri Uday Singh Bias. Now, I feel embarrassed when people give the honorary doctor to me, because all of you have earned your doctorates by the dint of your hard work, knowledge and intelligence. Dr. Rao, please mute yourself. Whereas when people call me doctor, I feel embarrassed because it has just been conferred to me on an honorary capacity. And if somebody deserves a doctorate in the honorary capacity, it is the man who has provided immense visibility and leadership to the poultry sector. So Dr. Uday Singh Bias, I take it upon myself on behalf of everyone present here to give you the title of doctor today. Ladies and gentlemen, I am extremely glad and honored to be present amidst you. And as Dr. Rajkumar was mentioning, it was quite a challenge to come here since all the flights had been cancelled. Dr. Rajkumar said that I'll try to book you on Air India. So I told him the way the fares are skyrocketing, if I buy the ticket myself, I'll become a pauper. And if you buy it for me, your entire budget of this conference will go in one single air ticket. But lo and behold, we didn't even manage to get a ticket in Air India. Now, everyone discouraged me from making an attempt to travel, including my brother, my children. Everyone said, don't go, don't go. But one person encouraged me. That was my wife. She told me that once you have made a commitment, you have to honor it. You go to the airport. If you are sent back from the airport, it is beyond your hands. But on your own, you cannot chicken out. So you use the word chicken out. How appropriate phrase she used for a poultry conference. And then the persuasion of Dr. Rajkumar. So that gave me determination that I must travel and participate. Plus my long association with all of you, individually as also collectively. Sometimes I wonder that a person like me who has not studied science beyond school, in my college and post-graduation, I was never a good enough student to get admission in a good science college or a science course. Why am I invited to these science conferences? This, ladies and gentlemen, is only on account of having been an average student during my student life. I became a good student once I joined service, and you were all my teachers from whom I learned. My interactions with you always enriched me, and whatever I'm going to speak is basically giving back to you what you have given to me. About 2 months back, I had gone to Chennai to participate in a conference of Asian Fisheries Society. While traveling from the airport, I noticed a few shops which carried the signboards at protein shop, standard protein shop, unique protein shop. Now all these shops were selling poultry products, eggs and poultry. It intrigued me. Although I am later told that it is now quite common in this part of the country to call a shop, protein shop, if it is selling eggs and poultry, I had never seen it before in the 66 years of my existence on this earth. I was really intrigued. And I was reminded of an English idiom called seeing wood for the trees, or it is also sometimes put it negatively, unable to see wood from the trees. It basically means that you are just focused on what is immediately visible to you. You are not seeing the larger and bigger picture. And I thought that we have been participating in various conferences of scientists, veterinarians, poultry scientists, animal scientists. But however, these shopkeepers are seeing the larger vision. They are able to see the wood from the trees. And instead of calling their shops as egg and chicken shops, they are calling it protein shops. Now, when I was thinking about what to say to you in terms of my keynote address, I was reminded and I thought that these shopkeepers could be the icons of Viksit Bharat, because what Viksit Bharat, that is a developed India, needs is people who can take the global vision and wider vision rather than a very narrow perspective of only chicken and egg. So as a beginning, I'll make a statement and I will call it a simple fact. So it's not a statement, it's a fact. Protein is the foundation of progress. Protein is the foundation of progress. Now, it's a very broad, generalized statement, and I would call it a non-scientific statement. And as scientists, you will be entitled to object to calling it a fact, whereas it could be termed as a fiction. However, ladies and gentlemen, it's an undeniable truth. Students of anthropology will bear me out. Protein has played an indispensable role in the biological existence of humans and also the cultural, economic, and physical development of human societies. Historically, meat and protein-rich foods are associated with health and wealth. Now, it's not only health and wealth. How? How protein consumption in many societies has been considered to be a marker of social status, and in some cases, also a case of national or racial superiority. Now, protein, you all know, and it has been time and again reiterated in the morning session also. But let me again add on to that. Protein provides healthy nutrition to pregnant mothers, fuels learning in children, productivity in adults, and hence it provides resilience to communities and societies. And poultry, it was again mentioned time and again, is the most accessible, affordable, and scalable source of animal protein for our people. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, my appeal to all of you would be, don't consider yourself to be merely poultry scientists or veterinarians. You are the custodians of human nutrition and protein. Henceforth, as the chicken and egg shopkeeper is calling his shop as a protein shop, you call yourself as custodians of human nutrition and proteins. And the custodians of human nutrition and protein would also be creators of human health and wealth. That is how I would define poultry scientists. Amongst the 35 billion farm animals in the world, chicken comprises 26 billion, which is 75%. This shows how poultry is dominating the entire spectrum of animal agriculture. Many of you know I have been repeating this story time and again. I think I repeated this story in 2 years back in your IPSACON in Mathura, in Pondicherry in the World Poultry Association conference also. But many of the young students here would be fascinated to know that the ancestry of poultry, today's chicken, today's fowl, is traced back to the great giant Tyrannosaurus rex, who lorded over this universe and this world millions of years back. Analysis of the mitochondrial DNA suggests that this T-rex, the giant T-rex, developed into Gallus gallus, the jungle fowl, and later on it developed through millions of years of evolution into today's Gallus domesticus, today's chicken which we consume. Now, there are various theories as to the emergence of this Gallus domesticus. Egyptians say that it was Egypt which created this chicken and which thereafter developed the most ubiquitous animal in the world. But however, the most famous naturalist Charles Darwin puts the origin of chicken to the Indus Valley civilization. So when we call it Indus Valley civilization, it means we are the originators of today's poultry. And we can take pride that along with the domestication of cattle, domestication of fowl took place in our part of the world. It's amazing. With Mr. Uday Singh Bias, I was just joking that it's a low-flight bird. Chicken is a very low-flight bird, but Uday Singh with his endeavor and his enthusiasm has actually taken the message of chicken all across. So it's very fascinating how this low-flight or no-flight bird managed to reach each and every corner of the world. Now, chicken is one animal which is found in every part of the world. So chicken was also associated with human migration, human conquest. When armies traveled for conquest, etc., far and wide, chicken was their companion. chicken and dog. In fact, the history of animal science tells us that the oldest animal to be domesticated was dog, and thereafter it was chicken. And in fact, not the raison d'etre, that is the reason and the objective of keeping chicken initially was not food and nutrition as we believe today. One of the first activities for keeping chicken was the activity of cockfighting. It was more for leisure and for entertainment rather than for food. Then it became a motivational symbol. There's a very interesting story, and which is steeped into history. There was a Athens in Greece, but Athens was a province. There was an Athenian general called Themistocles who was invading Persia. And their armies were very badly getting defeated. The soldiers were demoralized. They had suffered heavy losses. And this Themistocles' army had started withdrawing when they came across two cocks fighting, very fiercely fighting each other. The general got an idea, so he addressed his troops. He asked them to stop and watch this cockfight, and he addressed his troops, and he said the following lines. I'll read what he said to motivate his soldiers. Behold, these do not fight for household or their gods, or for the monuments of their ancestors, nor for glory, nor for liberty, or for the safety of their children, but only because one will not give way to the other. So only cause of fighting was that I will not retreat. This generated this enthusiasm and motivated the army, and they fought with greater vigor and defeated the Persian armies. So chicken was a symbol of bravery. Today we consider chicken to be a very meek and docile animal. Chicken also later on emerged as a cultural symbol. Robin Cook was the foreign minister of Great Britain. They call his foreign secretary during the first decade of this, last decade of the last century and the first decade of this century. The very famous politician, English politician. In the year 2001, he addressed a very elite gathering of intellectuals and thinkers and policymakers of Great Britain and gave a speech. And this speech was known as Chicken Tikka Masala speech. Chicken Tikka Masala speech. He chose this dish, which was the most popular cuisine in Britain, to symbolize nation's commitment to multiculturalism. What did he say? I quote Robin Cook's speech. A perfect illustration of the way Britain absorbs and adapts external influences. Chicken tikka is an Indian dish. The masala sauce was added to satisfy the desire of the British people to have their meat served in gravy. So even a marinated and grilled chicken is projected as a mascot of globalization. It has infiltrated into Caesar salad, turkey sandwich. So Robin Cook presented chicken as a symbol of global harmony and multiculturalism. And you all would have heard of this series of books and articles called Chicken Soup for the Soul. Chicken Soup for the Soul has become a big brand name, and its promoters have become billionaires. Chicken soup not only for health, chicken soup not only to ward off the cold, chicken soup not only for nutrition, chicken soup not only for taste, but chicken soup for spiritual upliftment, chicken soup for the soul. So this is the power of chicken, and you as poultry scientists have to look beyond. Look for woods beyond the trees. Look for trees and the wood both. See the larger picture. So you are the custodians of protein, you are the custodians of spiritual health, you are the custodians of motivation and what all. This is what chicken symbolizes. Now we are looking at sustainability, nutrition and protein security in Viksit Bharat. What is Viksit Bharat? Viksit Bharat 2047. 2047 will be the centenary year of our independence, 100 years. And 100 years down the line, we have a national ambition, a transformative ambition to achieve the status of a developed nation, to foster a self-reliant and prosperous economy, characterized by comprehensive advancement across multiple societal and economic dimensions. As Dr. Shukla mentioned in his address, the foundational framework for this vision rests upon four strategic sets of people. Yuva, youth. We have a lot of Yuva and youth sitting here. They are the first pillar. Garib, poor. Mahila, women. Kisan, farmers. These four pillars of the vision of Viksit Bharat emphasize the concept of inclusive growth. The overarching goals of Viksit Bharat 2047 extend beyond mere economic expansion to encompass social equity, global competitiveness, environmental sustainability, technology, and transparent governance. Now, what is the economics envisaged in Viksit Bharat? We aim at gross domestic product to surpass US 7 trillion by the year 2030, and by 2047, the year of Viksit Bharat, to reach an impressive 34.7 trillion. Per capita income is projected or aimed to be 21,000 US dollars within the same time frame. Now, the anticipated sectoral shift in terms of the contribution to GDP would be that agriculture's share should decrease to 12%. Today it is 18%, around 18%, Dr. Shukla, if I am not wrong. It is projected to decrease to 12%. Now, it becomes a bit odd. We have Kisan and Yuva and Garib as the pillar, and thereafter we are saying that the contribution of agriculture to GDP should reduce rather than increase. Now, this is where we need to understand the entire gamut of our agriculture, including animal agriculture, which includes poultry. We have to move away from absolute production to productivity. We have to move away from quantity to value. We always talk in terms of that. In the morning also, the figures were being quoted that we are the second biggest egg producer. We produce so many eggs. We produce so much milk. We have to talk in terms of value. What is the value of the egg we produced? Monetary value, as also value in terms of our protein and nutrition requirements. So once we enhance the productivity of our agriculture produce, we shall be enhancing its value, and thus will also be uplifting the Kisan and the poor segments of our Viksit Bharat. Now let us see where poultry gets positioned in our national vision and ambition. In Poultry India, just a few days back, I had quoted this very interesting quote from Confucius, the great Chinese thinker. If you think in terms of a year, plant a seed. If in terms of 10 years, plant trees. If in terms of 100 years, teach the people. This is what Confucius advises. And you are all poultry scientists managing institutions of learning and knowledge. So you are the ones to do it. You are the ones to teach people. I repeatedly say that when we say teach people, it is not in the traditional sense of classroom teaching only. We have to come out of these seminar halls and conferences. Dr. Jitendra Verma would bear me out. In Pondicherry also, I mentioned it, that we are having a global conference on poultry in Puducherry. But how many people of Puducherry beyond this hall wherein we are having conference would be realizing the importance of poultry and its contribution to nutrition? So when we say teach the people, you have to go out of these rooms and actually ingrain in the people the importance of poultry, not only economically, but also in terms of long-term protein and nutritional security and health of our people. Poultry is undoubtedly, it was again mentioned in the morning, one of the most vibrant and transformative sectors of Indian agriculture. And again, I have to emphasize time and again, because we lose sight of the fact, when I say agriculture, agriculture includes animal husbandry, and animal husbandry includes cattle, buffalo, goat, sheep, poultry, yak, camel, and it also includes fishery, and fishery includes aquaculture. Nutritional security is not merely a policy goal, it is also our moral imperative. Please note, it is not merely a policy goal with some targets we have to achieve. We as policymakers, you as scientists, or we collectively together owe it to our people that we give them nutritional security. Because protein malnutrition is a pervasive and silent crisis affecting millions in this country. I'll just give you some very startling figures, and which should also raise reasonable alarm in every right-thinking person who has some compassion. Over 80% of our population fails to meet their daily protein requirements, a staggering 80%. Average Indian consumes only 0.6 grams of protein per kilogram body weight, which is significantly below what the Indian Council for Medical Research recommends, which should be 0.8 to 1 gram of protein minimum per kilogram of body weight. Now, this deficiency has adverse consequences on growth. It leads to impaired cognitive development in children and reduced muscle mass, weakened immunity, and decreased productivity in adults. Waste and stunting is one of the most serious and alarming issues which we are confronted with. Over 35% of our children are stunted, 18% are wasted. Amidst such chronic malnutrition and protein deficiency, could we really call ourselves Viksit Bharat? Viksit Bharat amidst such nutritional status would really be a very sad irony. And that is why your theme, and I'm happy you've chosen this theme, protein security in Viksit Bharat. Now everyone knows, and I need not tell you, that poultry products, eggs and chicken are a solution to this nutritional challenge. They're not merely contributors, they could be a viable solution to this nutritional challenge. Their versatility and ease of preparation. Now, how do we market? Now, Uday Singh, Mr. Uday Singh, Dr. Uday Singh, sorry, it was a slip of the tongue. See, this is how you position. You see, when you market something, and people who are in the business would know, if you say protein, nutrition, etc., probably it will not be very effective marketing. Taste, ease of cooking, all these things have to be incorporated in the entire strategy. The critical role of poultry in improving public health and human capital is evident. Increasing per capita consumption of poultry products, which currently lag significantly behind recommended levels, can directly address widespread protein deficiency. Our per capita availability, I'll give you the latest figures, has now risen to 106 eggs per year. Impressive, no doubt impressive. However, it is still much below the recommended levels of 180, which the National Institution of Nutrition recommends. However, the per capita consumption of poultry meat stands only at about 3.4 kilograms per annum, much below the recommended level, 11 kg. Although I would say the recommended level is also abysmally low. And people like Dr. Shukla contribute to this. He will talk about poultry and everything, but neither consume eggs nor poultry. Promoting poultry consumption through targeted awareness campaigns and integrating eggs into various nutrition programs such as midday meal in school can significantly improve nutritional outcomes, especially among vulnerable populations. I recently read, I was very happy to note that during the Egg Day celebrations, the Nagpur Veterinary University had this, they prepared, I don't know how many thousand egg bhurji, 5,000 egg bhurji, and distributed it to the morning walkers, etc. So these kind of campaigns would go a long way in promoting the message of poultry. Investment in a healthier, more productive citizenry is foundational to achieving the broader economic and social development goals of Viksit Bharat. I will repeat this statement. Investment in a healthier and more productive citizenry is foundational to achieving the broad economic and social development goals of Viksit Bharat. I again come back to the four pillars. Yuva, Mahila, Garib, Kisan. All the four pillars are human resource. So when you are investing in poultry, you are going beyond investing in nutrition or proteins. You are investing in the entire development of your human resource. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, this conference is uniquely placed. How can India's policy makers, industry, and innovation ecosystem come together to transform into a pillar of our protein-secure Viksit Bharat? And for this, you and I have to take the initiative, individually, in groups, and collectively. You see, poultry science is way ahead of other disciplines. Now, it's not that I am sitting amongst poultry scientists, I am saying this. I have been, as I told you, after school, I have been a rank student of arts. But during the course of my long 35 years plus service as an administrator in the highest positions involved with policy at different levels, and especially in the sector of animal husbandry and fisheries. I have found that within our country, in terms of the scientific environment and the scientific ecosystem, poultry science is way ahead of the other disciplines of animal science, focusing on efficiency, health and genetics, as the Honorable Vice Chancellor in his inaugural address also mentioned. Poultry is also ensuring a consistent supply, which is not true of other segments, consistent supply of safe, affordable, and more importantly, nutrient-dense food, making it an indispensable tool in achieving nutrition security. You see, in the entire gamut of agriculture sector, poultry and aquaculture, these two subsectors stand apart. It is because they stand on their own feet. They have been at the margins of political and government attention compared to crop husbandry and dairy. Being low on, these are my favorite statements I'm going to make, and I repeat everywhere. And sometimes people don't like my saying it because we are so attuned to asking more and more from the government, more subsidies, more incentives, etc. Incentives, when we talk of incentives, we don't seem to go beyond money and the financial incentives. Being low on the political and governance agenda has been a blessing for poultry and aquaculture sector. How has it been a blessing? Because it has spurred entrepreneurship and the resultant competitive spirit. That is why you can't have poultry India in fish or aquaculture or in dairy. If you were also dependent upon the artificial support and crutches which various kind of subsidies give us, you would not have developed the spirit of enterprise, the spirit of competitiveness. You see, ultimately, what is the objective behind government support? Be it direct subsidies or indirect financial support. It's to give a sector an initial head start. It's to, like you have in games, golf, handicap. So it's an initial head start. You can't retain that handicap all through life. It is to initially empower the farmers or the producers so that they are able to stand on their own feet. But however, once you give a man a crutches, he feels so comfortable in them that you tend to continue with that. The latest edition of basic animal husbandry statistics has been released just 2-3 days back. So the latest data of poultry sector is that its value is now approximately 3 lakh crores. The growth rates for eggs and poultry meat have averaged between 6 to 9%. It is the organized structure and the integrated structure of this sector which has given its inherent resilience. That is why whenever there is a crisis or an adversity, this sector's dependence upon the government to bail itself out is much less as it is with dairy or other sectors. That is because this sector is being driven by innovativeness and entrepreneurship, and all of you deserve credit for that. The trends are also loud and clear. The online retail and delivery market of poultry products is poised for an exponential growth. So obviously, the poultry farmer and the primary producer will be integrated along the value chain and would reap the benefits. Let me give you a bare glimpse into some of the figures of the time gone by. From the year 2000 onwards, now this is a figure I am quoting from OECD and FAO study. They bring out a joint publication every year and also half-yearly publication, giving the trends of various sectors by analyzing the past. From the year 2000 onwards till the current year, that is mean the onset of this century, in the 2.5 decades gone by, food grains, the primary focus of our agriculture and the resultant infusion of government investment, has registered a growth of 56%, a growth of 56% over a period of 25 years. And poultry during this period has grown by 500%. 2.5 decades, food grains 56%, poultry 500%. So this is the exponential graph of growth which the poultry has been globally showing. And amongst the global markets of poultry, the fastest emerging market of poultry is India. Well, the study said Indian subcontinent. Then I tried to break the Indian subcontinent into it and found that Indian subcontinent is virtually India. Isn't it a remarkable performance? Isn't it a remarkable performance? So this is surely a pointer that subsidies may not necessarily spur growth, as innovativeness, spirit of enterprise, spirit of competitiveness would do. More importantly, what you should be asking the government and the system is not subsidies, but an appropriate policy framework, an appropriate ecosystem, and a visible space to the industry to grow and develop this spirit. You have already integrated yourself and organized yourself, and hence poultry is no longer a primary farming activity. Poultry is now emerging as business enterprise. Although we are a vast country with huge disparities and huge diversities, so we also have a small segment, but again a very vibrant sector of section in our poultry, that is our backyard poultry, which remains unorganized, but at the same time, it is also a very potent tool for enhancing the household incomes, providing nutritional security at your doorstep without having to go to the markets or looking for alternative products. And more importantly, giving what we call is the fascination today for organically produced food. There's also been significant transformation as far as traditional farming is concerned, and that is also slowly developing into a very sophisticated commercial enterprise. When I go to my village in Himachal, so there is only one shop within a radius of 3 kilometers, only one single shop, and he keeps all and sundry. Very, very small items which probably as a city dweller living in Delhi I can hardly consume. But one thing I buy regularly from gentle gentlemen is eggs. But you have to ring him up and find out, do you have eggs today? He says, आज नहीं है, कल मुर्गी अंडे देगी, तो कल आपको 6 मिल जाएंगे, या 5 मिल जाएंगे. So he gives one egg for 20 rupees. Now in that remote area, I'm not able to get atta, I'm not able to get chawal, I'm not able to get dal, etc., for which I have to pick up my vehicle and go away. But eggs I get, and those also eggs which are fresh. His hen lays eggs, he rings me up, कि मुर्गी ने अंडा दिया है, आप आकर ले जाइए. So it was mentioned we're the second biggest producer of egg in the world. I'll just give you the latest figure. Now, during the year 2024-25, according to the latest statistics and data released by Government of India, we produced an impressive 149.11 billion eggs. Growth rate over the last year was 4.4%, and per capita availability, as I told you, has reached 106 eggs per annum. And the same government document tells us that 85% of these eggs were the output of commercial poultry, so which signifies a very progressive evolution of a traditional backyard poultry into an industrial one. So no other subsector of the animal agriculture can boast of this kind of situation wherein 85% has been integrated and organized. In meat production, we hold the 5th position worldwide. Our output last year, that is year 24-25, was 10.5 million tons, and poultry contributed half of it with 5.18 million tons. Over the past decade, as far as meat production, poultry meat production is concerned, it has been hovering between 8 to 10%. Now, such robust growth, I won't quote the figures of its contribution to GDP or its contribution to livestock GDP. You'd all be knowing, but again for the students, 1% poultry's contribution to the national GDP and 14% to the contribution of agricultural GDP. So such robust growth positions India not just as a major producer, but as a potential global leader, directly supporting Viksit Bharat's overarching goal of enhancing global competitiveness and establishing India as a key global economic player by the year 2047. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you are all scientists. Now, it will be very preposterous on my part to try to teach you science. But I was thinking myself, what is science? What is science? How do you define science? I consulted various dictionaries and various other sources. Science is essentially a cerebral activity. It is an intellectual activity. Its foundation and its reference points is evidence. And even hypothesis is derived after some intellectual thinking and thought process. And thereafter it has to be empirically established and proven. And why it has to be empirically established and proven? It is for the benefit and progress of human civilization and society. But alas, many times I am pained to note that these days somehow science is succumbing. Science is surrendering to sentiments, to beliefs, to ideologies, to pressure, to politics, and a whole lot of other influences. Why can't and why shouldn't science encourage informed choices and decisions? Why can't science and traditional knowledge go hand in hand, blend together to create a better world for everyone? In fact, it is science which should guide politics and policy, not vice versa. But unfortunately, what is happening is, it is some beliefs and some ideology which has started guiding science, and we have somehow given up arms and are not really fighting back. Again, something I quote everywhere, and I will continue to quote it. There is something called Eat Right India campaign. It's a good campaign. The objective of the campaign, the intent behind the campaign is that our population should eat healthy and nutritious food. But there's a very famous quote of George Bernard Shaw: even the path to hell is paved with good intentions. Even the path to hell is paved with good intention. So what does Eat Right India campaign say? It's a different matter that this campaign has been launched by the Food Safety and Standard Organization of India, the FSSAI, whose primary mandate is to enforce the FSSAI Act to ensure that the food which our population consumes adheres to certain laid down standards, and it is of high nutritional value and quality. Now, if you all have smartphones, if you just on the Google bar type Eat India Right campaign logo, you'll find a circular logo, and that will tell you what to eat and how to eat. Now, it will, in nutshell, it will tell you that you eat dairy products in plenty, fresh vegetables, fruit in plenty, adequate quantities. Good enough, fair enough, nobody would question that. But thereafter it goes on to say that what you should consume less and in moderate quantities are two things. One is food which is high in sugar and fat. No quarrel with that, everybody would agree. Along with it says it, meat and poultry products. So this campaign has equated consumption of, Dr. Shukla, hear me out. I'm sure you are not behind the campaign. Now, I have no problem in somebody not eating meat, somebody not eating eggs. Fair enough, everybody is entitled to this choice. All I'm saying is, it is the duty of the scientist to ensure that the choice is an informed choice. Choice is an informed choice. It is not merely a sentimental choice. Okay, so let it be a sentimental choice of individual belief. It should not be a choice wherein my belief is being imposed upon your belief, and it is the organized machinery which is promoting a particular kind of thought, which may be divorced from science. If it is based on science, then you scientists please prove it. And if it is not based on science, then you have to disprove it. So you have to assert yourself in terms of disseminating this knowledge, because ultimately Viksit Bharat, Confucius, 100 years. If you are thinking in terms of 100 years and Viksit Bharat is 100 years, it is knowledge. You have to teach the people, and that is where I feel probably the scientific community is feeling a bit shy of teaching people. I don't know whether you are scared or maybe your voices are not being heard. So you have to speak in loud voices and disseminate this knowledge and information very clearly and loudly. Communicate in the language which people understand. I had recently written an article in the latest edition of Indian Poultry Review. I'll just be ending my address and I'll just quote from that article. This is my own article, so even if the quote is bad, please bear me out. I quote, "A vast multitude of women and children in the low and even middle income countries are severely impacted adversely by abysmally low consumption of animal source foods. A perspective inclusive of these concerns is either missing or underrepresented in scientific analysis. I'll repeat. The concern is that in the middle and low income countries, there is an abysmally low consumption of animal source foods. A perspective inclusive of these concerns is either missing or underrepresented in scientific analysis. The discussions on the relationship between animal source production systems and climate change generally tend to degenerate into ideology-driven heated slugfest. What is also missing is an understanding of how low the consumption of animal source foods is among the poor, particularly in low and middle income countries, where the typical diets are starch dominated. For example, now here, ladies and gentlemen, please hear carefully. For example, mean annual per capita meat consumption in the bottom 4 meat consuming countries, Sudan, Bangladesh, Ethiopia and India. Bottom 4 meat consuming countries, Sudan, Bangladesh, Ethiopia and India. It is less than 1/30th of the top 4, Brazil, Uruguay, Australia and USA. Considering the global power that we are emerging, this is one club we would not like to be member of. What a supreme irony. 5th big producer of the world as far as meat is concerned, and the lowest consumer of meat in the world. Member of a club comprising Sudan, Ethiopia and Bangladesh. So my earnest request is, when we perceive and envisage and dream of Viksit Bharat, let us understand that Viksit Bharat, besides being wealthy, should be truly healthy. A human resource we should be proud of. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.